So in this video, I want to spend a few minutes going through the homework that we set the other week. It's the last question of the 2016 paper, and we get one of these in every single exam paper where you're given a situation and you've got to come up with a solution. You need to use all your Python skills, and although it says that you've got to code a solution, it can be in pseudocode, which means that you don't have to worry too much about the language that we're using. You can come up with a solution in Python. You could come up with a solution in a flowchart. It's up to you. Now, the first thing you need to think about is what is the problem actually all about. Now, in this case, it's a game. There are 3 players, A, B, and C, and they've got to choose a number between 0 and 100. If somebody's already chosen that number, it says that the number has been taken. Alternatively, that person gets given the number. And as you can see in the table, figure 5, for example, if I chose the number 3 and I was player A, then A would go into that table at that point. In the final part of the game, you've actually got to work out how many numbers are still free. Another useful piece of information is this about the array. Now, an array is the same as a list in Python, but the way that it wants us to use it can be the same as in Python, but it's the idea that we use the name numbers, and then in the brackets we give it a value like 3, 4, 97, whatever number it is that you're actually looking for. And that will bring back which player has that number, or nothing if it's empty. Once we understand the game, we can start to work out what the solution is going to be. And the 4 bullet points at the bottom tells us exactly what we need to do. So we're not creating a solution for the whole game. We're just creating a solution for part of the game. Now, everybody should be able to do the first bullet point. So we're going to take an input that number A chooses. So we're just going to ask the user for a number. Think back to Python. We use the input function. And you must make sure that you actually save the information in a variable with a suitable name. The second bullet point asks us to make a decision. So if the number's not already been chosen, then we're going to store A in that element. If you noticed in both lines of code, I've referred to the numbers list and used choice to identify the number in the list that the person's chosen. We can then look at the third bullet point, which actually looks to see what happens if the number's been taken. So in this case, we're going to put an else clause in, and we're going to say, right, otherwise, if the number has been taken, then we just want to say, sorry, that number's been taken, using a print statement. The final bullet point in the question asks us to work out how many numbers haven't been chosen. So what we need to do is loop through the numbers list and basically count up every time there's an empty space. It's also good practice to make sure that before you go into that loop that we set the count to be 0 so that we know that it's been initialized before we work out anything out. So there you go, that's my model answer. The first 3 bullet points would have given you a total of 4 marks if you'd managed to get all of that right. That includes the input statement and the first if and else clause. The second part, which is the loop that loops through the numbers and then decides how many numbers are left empty, that would actually get you a further 2 marks.